All right, here's our video, the tree of life, phylogeny. And we'll make a phylogenetic tree. Sounds complicated, right? But it's not complicated. Actually, it's related to taxonomy. So let's look at taxonomy, then we can set a clean screen here. So here's taxonomy, when we'll get our pen working here. And so with taxonomy and phylogeny, we're talking about, in biology, systematics. So I'll write it over here, systematics. Systematics. And all systematics is classification. How can we classify animals? Right, for example, like the big cats. We have the lions, we have tigers, and let's say we have jaguars, and we also have leopards, right? So these are the big cats. We can classify this. They all have the same genus, right? And the same genus of Panthera. So we can classify them as big cats in the genus Panthera. And with taxonomy, as you can see, we have the highest one here, the domain, the kingdom, and we just keep going down the list, right? So this is a way of classifying animals. With phylogeny, though, it's a way of classifying animals by evolution. It's their evolutionary history. So that's the difference right there. Taxonomy classifies animals and plants and other, like fungi and bacteria. They classify them, and phylogeny looks at their evolutionary history, looks for a common ancestor. So that's what we'll look at with phylogeny. And we'll make a phylogenetic tree. And hopefully by the end of the video, we can say phylogeny easier. All right. All right. Let's get our pen going. So let's say, for example, we'll make a little basic tree here. Let's say we had species A and species B and C and D and E. Why not? So these are animals, right? And let's say that A and B, we're creating this tree here. And right here, this node, this is called a node. And that node is its most common, say its most common ancestor. The most common ancestor for A and B, species A and B. It branched out over here. Now, on phylogenetic trees, sometimes you see the years. And the years will go this way. So we go like this. We'll call that the years. And we'll call that the x-axis too. Now, if we continue this, let's say that over here, C and D, right, they shared a common ancestor right here. And then over here, creating more of the tree, there's another node. We'll call that node 1. We'll call that node 2, and this is node 3. So you can see with node 3, the most common ancestor of node 3 would be A. So the species A, B, C, and D had a common ancestor, however many years ago, at node 3, right there. And then we can keep going. Maybe over here we had another branching point, let's say right over there. So we have another node, node 4. So at one point in history, we know that node 4 was the common ancestor of A, B, C, D, and E. So that's a phylogenetic tree. Let's write that down. Phylogenetic tree, an evolutionary tree. So that's just a basic one. Let's look at cats. We talked about them before. All right, so here's the cats creating a phylogenetic tree, and here you can see the years too. So again, the years go from left to right, right? And so over here we have a node. That's a node right there. Where else do you see a node? We see a node here. So let's look at the nodes in red. So this node would be a common ancestor between the lion and the leopard. And it looks like about 2.57 million years ago, roughly. There's another node over here. We'll just call this node 1. And node 2 is about 3.65 million years ago. You see that there's a common ancestor for the jaguar, the lion, and the leopard. Here's a node over here. There's a node over here. There's a node over here. So if we keep going, we can see that right here, if we call this node 3 would be the common ancestor between the jaguar, the lion, and the leopard. And the snow leopard and the tiger. See, just follow the path. And node 4, some 12 million years ago over here, would be the common ancestor of all the animals you see in this phylogenetic tree. So some 12 million years ago, this common ancestor would branch out. You would have the domestic cat, the tiger, the snow leopard, the jaguar, the leopard, and the lion. So let's make sure we know the terms. So again, where this arrow is, that's the node. Right? And it's also called the branch point. And of course, fix that O there. It's also the common ancestor, the most common ancestor. And now this isn't fixed. Remember, this will change depending on new information. So the branch point, the node, the most common ancestor, whatever that animal was, 2.5 million years ago. So if we looked at here, this animal over here, whatever it was, as it evolved, there would be a branching point going this way and a branching point for domestic cats going this way. And this line here is called the evolutionary lineage. Lineage, linear meaning straight. Let's look at another one. Now this one's a little more sophisticated, right? More detailed. We have the ancestors of saber-tooth, Smilodon, saber-tooth cats, and all modern cats. So look at all these nodes we have, right? A lot of them are extinct, right? So we have a node right over here. If we think about that node and this common ancestor, this node, this common ancestor would branch off to the earliest known cat and the saber-tooth cat and modern cats. And then from there, we would have another node here that would give us our modern big cats, like we talked about over here. And then the saber-tooth Smilodon and its lineage over here. And you can see each node again, each branch is where the common ancestor was. If you look at this also, you can notice that domestic cats, let's change the color for a minute. Domestic cats, our little house cats here, they have, if you look at where the cougar is and the cheetah, so they have a closer ancestor than the big cats. So they're related more. The cougar and the cheetah and the domestic cats are related more than the lion and the leopard. You can see they have a closer ancestor. And let's see if you can read this. So look at the domestic cat and the lion and the ocelot. And who do you think out of those pairs, who shares more traits, do you think? If you look at the domestic cat, right, domestic cat's over here like we did before, and the ocelot. So the ocelot and domestic cat, they share two common ancestors. We shouldn't say they don't share two common ancestors, but they're two common ancestors away from each other. Whereas domestic cat to lion is four common ancestors away. So we can see that the ocelot and the domestic cat are more closely related because they have closer common ancestors. All right. Now, phylogenetic trees, they can be more complicated, more detailed, or they can be just like this, not much detail in it. But you can see from here, we're missing animals. But just by looking at it, you can tell that the dog and the cat are more closely related than we are. As we lose our picture, let's get back there. right? And again, we do have the time going from left to right, but they're not showing the years in this picture. They're just showing, again, the class, the order, the suborder, and family, but I'm missing many animals. And sometimes they could be written this way, right? You can see them, these phylogenetic trees, this way. So here's some of the primates and monkeys. And you can see over here, if we get our pen going here. So right over here, we can see there's a common ancestor. Of course, it doesn't show the years between a chimp and humans. So we know that humans and chimps are more commonly related than humans and gorillas, or chimps and gorillas. Then you just keep looking at these nodes, right? We can say that gorillas have a more of a common relationship with humans than orangutans do, and so forth. And the last thing is we should talk about what a clade is. You can look at the diagram over here. So again, it's right here. A clade is a group of species that include an ancestral species and all its descendants. So if you look, why this is a clade over here, right? This is the ancestral species. So there's the ancestral species, and all its descendants are included. So it's a clade. Over here, this is the ancestral species right over here, and it's all its descendants. Right? This is not a clade. Why is that not a clade? Because, of course, here's the ancestral species, but it doesn't include this. So we can't call that a clade. It has to include all of the descendants. Now over here, the ancestral species is right here, but we're not including this or that. So again, a clade is a group of species that includes the ancestral species, all its descendants. And you can make many different clades. All right, let's look at one more phylogenetic tree. So what do you think? Who do you think in this picture, in this tree, are more closely related? And you can see the node points. We have 5 node points, or branch points, 5 most common ancestors. So we have the dinosaurs and the birds, right? They share more traits. They're similar to each other. They're more similar to each other than crocodiles, right? We can see that. And if we look at lizards and snakes, we look at the common ancestor. Again, this is missing the years, like we've seen with the cats. But here's a common ancestor. We'll get to that word taxa in a minute. Taxa. We'll get to taxa and the characteristics of that. So lizards and snakes, crocodiles and so forth, these are called taxa. And they could be sister taxa also. We have, a frog and turtle and leopard and so forth. These are taxa. So we have the taxa of lion. Let's get our pen working here. But the lion and leopard together would be a sister taxa. So we'd say these two over here are a sister taxa, right? If they share a common ancestor, they do share a common ancestor that is not found in any other group. So this common ancestor here is not found in any other group. But this you can make another sister taxa with the jaguar if you include this common ancestor. Because now this common ancestor would be, again, the ancestor of the lion, the leopard, and the jaguar, so that we can make another sister taxa. As long as they have a common ancestor that is not found in any other group, it'll be a sister taxa. Another way of looking at phylogenetic trees is by their shared derived characteristics. So you see that on the left, their characteristics. For example, we have the moss, the fern, the pine, the cherry, and the pea. And we see the moss and the fern don't have seeds, but the pine, the cherry, and the pea do. So if you look at this, which two do you think share more characteristics? Just look at it. Well, if you look at the pea and the cherry, they share 3 out of these 4 characteristics. So from that, basis, we can see that the cherry and the pea could be more closely related than the cherry and the pine. Again, these are only 4 characteristics that we have shown. So this is another way of looking at phylogenetic trees by shared derived characteristics. All right, that's our video today.